Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
In the 1920s, there was a professor at Northwestern University. He taught a class on social psychology. His name was George W. Crane. And he gave his students an assignment. It was a 30-day assignment. And every day for 30 days, you were supposed to give somebody an honest compliment. And during the course of this particular project, and it doesn't really share how they reported back, but during this project, the students noted that their compliments had an impact on the people around them, and that when they praised people, it tended to lift their spirits up. And I don't think there's any great shock to that. Susan Jeffers, in her book Dare to Connect, says this: the purpose of the compliment is not to make others like you, but rather to enrich their lives in some way. And so when we compliment other people, there's a purpose for it. There's a purpose. A sincere compliment is to make people feel good about themselves. But and so from that standpoint, it's really it's a form of altruism. It's a form of generosity. It's us going out of our way and doing something for somebody that they might not expect or generally don't expect. I mean, I guess if somebody's coming to you and say, "Hey, I need a compliment," or they're fishing for compliments, they're not really sincere. And so when we take the time to give other people compliments, we serve to lift them up. We serve to do something for them. And before we're done, this is my little tease. Before we're done, I'm going to give you a little idea as to how you can ensure that you're always giving people compliments. But studies show that we don't give compliments enough. There's research out there that shows that we don't give compliments enough. And so they've really tried to dig into why people don't give compliments. Obviously, in George Crane's class, it was part of the assignment: go out and give people compliments. And I don't know how many of those students continued on that practice. Perhaps they did, just a daily compliment. Many of them probably stopped the practice. And we tend not to give compliments. And there are really two reasons why people don't give compliments. And it can be and or sort of a thing. The first reason people don't give compliments is they just, they undervalue the impact. Yeah, I could give somebody a compliment, but does it really matter? And what they have found in the research is that, yeah, it does matter. And George Crane's students, I don't know that he was a professor, but he, I don't want to call him Dr. Crane, but George Crane's students, they saw that it uplifted people. And so what they found in research, there's research out there that basically suggests, and what they've done is they will have people who will get compliments, and they'll have a group of researchers, and they'll go out and they'll go on the street and they'll give somebody a compliment, and they'll have somebody interview the person shortly or afterwards. So and so gave you a compliment about whatever. How did that make you feel? Which is, I guess, a little awkward and maybe not a true measure, but people would say, yeah, that was really nice. And there's an article out there that was in Psychology Today called "Give More Compliments. It Won't Be as Awkward as you think." Give more compliments and won't be as awkward as you might think, as the title, just to say that correctly. And it was posted in September of 2022. And the author writes about research out there where, people really appreciate the compliments. In fact, in the article, she shares her own personal story of being on vacation, and as she details the story, they were on vacation. Her husband and her kids, and they were with another couple, and it was a particularly hectic night out at a restaurant, and there was a gentleman there who's, she's trying to get, herd the kids, kind of a thing, and it can be very stressful. There was a gentleman there who just made a point of just commending her for how well she handled the situation. And not in his presence, but later, when people were saying, "What did he say to you?" She kind of broke down because she really needed it in that moment. And if you're a parent and you've had to deal with kids, and you just certainly in a public setting, you don't want to raise your voice to get their attention. It literally is like herding cats. Um, and she broke down, and I don't know, the person who gave the compliment doesn't know what kind of an impact it had on her, but it did. So the first reason why people don't give compliments is they really undervalue what, what a compliment can do for somebody. The second reason why people don't give a compliment is that they they exaggerate the level of awkwardness that someone might feel. I'm going to really make that person feel awkward if I go up and say, "Wow, that's a really neat hat you have on." Um, or, "I really appreciated your talk," or whatever it is, that people will feel awkward. And again, what the research shows is just the opposite, is that it's not awkward. People are not, it's a form of giving. We all want to be acknowledged, and by somebody stopping and just taking the time to say, "You know what, that was a really good talk you gave," or, "I appreciate how you handled your kids," or, "I like how you've dressed. That's a great combination that really makes you look sharp," be it a man or a woman. And so it's always one of those two things that keeps people from giving compliments. So just a little bit of tidbit on uh, ways we can be better at giving compliments. And again, at the end here, I'm going to give you a means of making sure that you're giving compliments on an ongoing basis. There's certainly different types of compliments. We can compliment people on their appearances. We can compliment them on their achievements. Whether it's a promotion or, again, great talk. Whatever it is. And I think there's, landing a client, or, having a great month. Personal traits. People's ability to talk, or I listened to your podcast and it was awesome, or I heard you on such and such podcast and you really did a great job of explaining whatever it is that you do. So I think there's lots of different types of ways that we can compliment people. um, and you just have to be in tune to how you do it. And again, or not how you do it, in tune to that, hey, this is something I need to do. This is my way of contributing to the world, of giving out there. And think about it. If you're known, maybe not rationally or consciously, people may not consciously note that you're giving compliments, but if people around you are constantly feeling good because you are giving compliments, they're going to want to be around you that much more often. But as far as tips for giving compliments, you certainly need to be specific as to what you're complimenting somebody on. And if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, great job," you're gonna be like, kind of, "Well, yeah, what did I do? Was that sarcastic? Was great job sarcastic?" So you want to be specific as you can, pointing out, whatever it might be. Oh, that jacket and blouse combination, really popped. Or, "I liked how in your program you limited what you had to say to a few items and had great stories that were very relatable." That's being specific. Certainly being genuine matters, and almost should go without saying, but I'll say it. We need to be authentic with respect to it. I always chuckle when a parent will say to a kid, "Go tell them you're sorry," and the kid comes bopping over and says, "Well, I'm here to say sorry only because my mom told me I needed to say sorry." It's always kind of laughable to me. And sometimes you get a sense that people are complimenting. It's, yeah, is this really sincere, or is there something more to it? Um, in addition, we can compliment people for their achievements, but you can also compliment people for their effort. We're on the heels of March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament, and there are winners. Well, there's only one real winner, champion, and there are teams that maybe not, but teams that did really, really well. And you can compliment them for the effort they put forth. Yeah, they didn't achieve perhaps, but the effort is certainly commendable, for some of these teams and what they were able to accomplish over the course of a year. So it's not just the grand champion, if you will. Um, being timely with respect to compliments. I think about that in terms of almost like training a dog, if you will. Um, you know, or scolding a dog, one or the other. I mean, the you know the compliment, or the scolding of a dog. If the dog does something wrong, you can't wait till the next day to chide the dog. You have to kind of do it in the moment, and the same thing with compliments. It needs to be in the moment, so people, relatively speaking, somebody gets to the Final Four and they don't win the whole thing. A week later, hey, it's fine, or a month later, it's fine. But coming back to somebody long after the fact with respect to something doesn't really, uh, it kind of loses its impact. I remember when I had a job in public accounting, we would always joke about our performance reviews because they were they covered a 6-month period, and you're trying to think back to things that happened 6 months ago. It's like, yeah, it's just like I can't think of it. And even if I did, I don't know that it's really relevant at this point. And then the final thing with respect to compliments, obviously body language. This goes back to authenticity, making eye contact, smiling, just our tone of voice and how we give compliments. But, again, compliments, they serve to boost the confidence of other people. Um, they strengthen our relationships. As I've indicated, you're giving compliments to people. If you get in this routine of thanking people, of noting people for their achievements, they're going to maybe not consciously realize it, but they're just going to know that they tend to feel good around you, and that serves to not only prop up the person you're giving a compliment to, but in a way it props up you as well. So to wrap up, here's a little trick. Here's a little trick for making sure that you're part of Dr. Crane's, or George Crane's, I should say, compliment club. He called it the compliment club. Just getting in the daily habit of giving compliments. And this comes from uh, the book Nonstop Networking by Andrea Nierenberg. And her suggestion is simply this: to make it a daily habit of giving compliments. And she says, you start each day with 5 pennies in your right pocket. Then each time you give a compliment or offer up some sort of genuine praise, you simply shift a penny from your right pocket to your left. Obviously, the objective is to get all 5 pennies from your right pocket to your left pocket. Now, whether you start with 5 pennies or you just start with 1 penny, and just make it a habit to, like George Crane did within Northwestern University, just 1 compliment a day. In time, it'll become habitual for you, and you will serve to build relationships by making giving compliments a habit.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today, and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.